Just to give you the background of where we're holding. Yesterday we saw Machlokes Amoroim, Rabbi Yanai and Rabbi Yochanan. Their Machlokes is the focus of our entire DAF today. And that Machlokes is the Gorel, taking lots. If it's not done, does that passel the avoda? Meaning, is it ma'akev? Is it absolutely necessary? Or is it only a lichatchila? Rabbi Yanai says that it's ma'akev. And Rabbi Yochanan says it's only lechatchila. But b'di'eved, if the Kohen Gadol got up and said, that's for Hashem and that's for Azazel, without doing a goral, or what's called a hagrala, so then b'di'eved it's kosher. The Gemara now had introduced us yesterday to a machlokes tanoim between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia. Rabbi Yehuda had said that every type of avoda that's done outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim on Yom Kippur with the white vestments is not ma'akev. And it was on that basis that the Gemara had said that Rabbi Yanai has to reconcile himself with Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Nechemia says that such avoda is ma'akev. So that's not an issue. But how's Rabbi Yanai going to work within Rabbi Yehuda? So the Gemara says Rabbi Yochanan works out very well, because since the Hagrala is done in the white vestments outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it's consistent with Rabbi Yehuda that it's not ma'akev. But Rabbi Yanai, how does he reconcile it? So the Gemara had said that even Rabbi Yehuda would agree that the Goral is ma'akev, because it says twice in the Torah, Asher Allah, that the lottery fell upon that animal. And because it says it twice, for added emphasis, it tells me that that particular avoda, taka, is ma'akev, even though it's done with the white vestments outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That's where we held it yesterday. We introduced a brisa. The brisa had suggested that the goral is not ma'akev. And the Gemara said, what's Rabbi Yanai going to do with that brisa? Answers the Gemara, that brisa is not talking about the taking of lots out of the box, but rather placing the card on top of the goat. Those are two different things. Taking the lot out of the box, that's for sure ma'akev, says Rabbi Yanai. But when the brisa talks about the goral, it's talking about putting the card on the back of the goat after you've made the lots. That's what the brisa says is not ma'akev. So that's where we're up to now. We're on DAF Mem Amud Aleph, and on the fourth line, where the brisa says Toshma, come and listen. So I want to point out that this DAF is a little bit complex. So it really just requires you to hold cup a little bit. But otherwise it's pretty straightforward. You just need to hold cup. So Toshma, mitzvah lahagril uli hisvados, lo higril velo hisvade kosher. The brisa says explicitly that it's a mitzvah lechatchila to do the goral and to say the vidui, and for the Kohen Gadol to say the confessional on the goat to Azazel. If, however, neither was done b'di'eved, the avoda is still kosher, which is pretty startling when you think about it, that even the vidui, according to the Tanakama of this brisa, is not ma'akev. V'chite mahachanami lahaniach. So obviously this brisa is a question on Rabbi Yanai, because Rabbi Yanai says that the goral is ma'akev. So what's Rabbi Yanai going to do with this brisa? So the Gemara says, maybe you'll tell me, just like we said previously, that the word goral here doesn't mean pulling the card out of the box, but rather it means putting the card on top of the goat. That's what it means, and that's what's not ma'akev. But surely the taking of lots in the first place is ma'akev. No, that's not going to work. You know why? Because Ema Seifa, take a look at the second part of that self-same brisa. It says, Rabbi Shimon Omer, lo higril kosher, lo hisvada pasul. That Rabbi Shimon says that if you didn't take lots b'di'evit, I agree with the Tanakama that it's kosher. But if you don't do vidoi, says Rabbi Shimon, that taka is ma'akev, then it pasels the whole avoda. So the Gemara now says, my lo higril. According to Rabbi Shimon, what does it mean that a lottery was not taken? He says, Ilei melohiniach. Maybe you're going to tell me that it means that not that you didn't take lots, but that you didn't put the card on the goat. Okay, so Michlal de Reb Shimon Savar Hagrola Ma'akva. So you mean to tell me that everyone in the Brisa agrees, including Reb Shimon, that the taking of the lot, taking the card out of the box, is ma'akev, like Rabbi Yanai had argued, but that can't be true, because v'hatanya meis echad mehen mevi chavero shelo bahagrola divrei Reb Shimon. We have an explicit brisa authored by Reb Shimon who says that if one of the two animals that you've selected for your goats, one of the two goats dies, so then even though you've already made the lottery and you've designated which one is for Hashem and which one is for Azazel, if one of those goats then dies, you just take another goat off of the shuk, and you don't have to have that goat participate in a new gorel. You just designate that goat to replace the one that died. So what do you see from here? You see from here that Reb Shimon does not require a gorel. Okay, is that clear? Reb Shimon
already occurred. He did do one.
It already occurred, but not on this animal.
Yeah.
Not on this animal. So therefore, you see, the Gemara wants to argue. Therefore, you see from here that according to Reb Shimon, a gorel is not necessary. If according to Reb Shimon, a gorel is not necessary, then you can't suggest that everyone in this brisa holds that a gorel is necessary. So therefore, the word gorel in this brisa must be referring to the drawing of the card out of the box, not the putting of the card on the back of the goat. So now we're back to our original question. The question is, Rabbi Yanai doesn't have a leg to stand on, because both opinions in this brisa hold that the gorel is not ma'akev. So just keep that in mind, okay? This is the question that we're left with. So the Gemara now says, Reb Shimon lo yada mai ka'amri rabbanon v'hachi kamerlo. So the Gemara tries to sort of ease its way out of this, squeeze its way out of this. How does the Gemara do this? In reality, I'll tell you that the Tanakama holds that the gorel is ma'akev, that pulling the card out of the box is absolutely necessary. And really, the Tanakama was just talking about putting the card on the goat's back. But Reb Shimon saw that the Chachamim were using ambiguous language, and he didn't know what they meant, because they just said that the gorel is not ma'akev. And Reb Shimon says, I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about pulling the card out of the box, or are you talking about putting the card on the goat's back? So he says, I hagrola mamish kamrisu, paligna alaychu b'chada. So then he says to them as follows, listen, Rabbi Isai, the Tanakama, if you're saying that the gorel is not ma'akev, and by the word gorel you mean pulling the card out of the box, then you and I agree about that it's not ma'akev. And the only point that we argue about is about the vidui. You hold that the vidui is also not ma'akev, and I hold that the vidui is ma'akev. I hagrola te kamrisu hainu hanacha, paligna alaychu b'tarte. If, however, your word gorel means putting the card on the goat's back because you hold that the gorel of pulling the card out of the box is ma'akev, then you and I disagree on 2 points. You hold that the gorel is ma'akev, I hold that the gorel is not ma'akev. That's number one. Number two, though, you hold that the vidui is not ma'akev, I hold that the vidui is ma'akev. So the bottom line is, the Gemara says, you can squeeze out of this brisa and still find someone in this brisa that supports Rabbi Yanai, namely the Tanakama, that says that the gorel is ma'akev. Okay, next. Tashma, let's look at the next brisa. Par ma'akev es hasoir v'soir ein ma'akev es hapor b'matano shebifnim. End of brisa. Now, in order to understand this brisa, we have to just review the protocol. It's very hard to figure it out when you daven on Yom Kippur on Musaf, to figure out the protocol of what was done. But let's go through it step by step. It's probably a good idea to have a list in front of you, but barring that, just keep in mind we're going to try and simplify it as much as possible. Step number one is that Kohen Gadol takes a bull. This bull, he's going to recite a confessional over 2 times. One on behalf of himself, and one meaning I have sinned. And then he's going to say a second confessional over the same bull, confessing the sins of the entire family of Kohanim. Okay? In between the 2 confessionals, he's supposed to do the lottery with the 2 goats. So first he says, Ana Hashem Chatasi, for himself. Then he does the lottery of the 2 goats. Then he does the second confessional over the same bull. What happens afterwards is that he shechts the bull, and he takes the blood of the bull, and he brings it into the Kodesh HaKadoshim together with incense, and he sprinkles the bull blood on the kapores, on the ark cover, or the place where the ark cover previously had stood. Okay? Then he shechts the goat to Hashem, the goat that's for Hashem, he takes its blood and sprinkles it on the kaporis. Then he takes the bull blood and sprinkles it on the paroches, on the, outside the Holy of Holies. And he takes the goat blood and sprinkles it on the paroches. Then he mixes the two bloods, and he pours the mixed blood onto the golden altar, onto the Mizbeach HaPnimi, the inner altar. Okay? That's the protocol. I hope I got it right.
Yeah.
Did I say it right, Mark? Okay. So now the Gemara, so the Brisa makes a statement, and the Brisa says as follows. It says, Par ma'akev esasoyer, that if you preempt anything having to do with the goat and do it at the wrong time before the bull, then the goat is no good. The goat is a bunch of bull. No, just kidding. The goat is no good. The goat is no good. The goat doesn't work. If you preempt, if you do the goat service earlier than you're supposed to, before the bull, then it doesn't work. But the sa'ir ein ma'akev es hapar. But the goat does not stop the bull, meaning that if the bull was done early, then b'di'evet it's kosher. Now, all of this has to do with the placement of blood inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the Gemara now says there's ambiguity in this brisa. What does this brisa mean? Bishlam apar ma'akev es hasoyer. So I understand the first part, that if you do the goat service too early, then it's no good, meaning what? If I were to take the goat blood and start putting it on the kaporis before I put the bull blood on, then that placement of blood is invalid, it's null and void, and I have to do it again once I do the bull blood. However, but what does it mean that the goat service does not pose a problem for the bull service, meaning that if I do the bull before the goat, then it's okay. What is that talking about? The bull is supposed to come before the goat. So ilay medii aktim matanos depar behechol mikmi matanos desoir bifnim. Maybe you'll tell me what it means is like this. You went ahead and did something wrong in the order. You were really supposed to put the goat blood on the ark cover and only then take the bull blood and put it on the paroches, on the curtain. Let's say you didn't do it in that order. Let's say you took the bull blood and put it on the kapores, on the ark cover, and then, forgetting about the goat, you took the same blood and put it on the paroches afterwards, without putting the goat blood on the ark cover in between. Maybe that's what it means, and it's therefore telling you that b'di'evet it's not ma'akev. So the Gemara says that can't be the case, because chukah ksivbu, everyone has to agree that the protocol of first putting down the bull blood on the kapores and then putting the goat blood on the kapores before you do anything else, everyone agrees that that's ma'akev, because the Torah says chukah, which means it's got to be done that way. So therefore, no one could possibly say that that's not ma'akev, and the Brisa says it's not ma'akev. So what does it mean? Elolav da aktim matanos depar bifnim mikri hagrola. The only thing that left that it could possibly mean, says the Gemara, is that instead of doing the gorel in between the two confessionals on the bull, you went ahead and you shechted the bull without doing any gorels at all on the goats, and you went ahead and took its blood and placed it on the kapores, on the ark cover inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, before you did any confessions. And that's where the Bryce is telling you that b'di'evet it's kosher. So the Gemara makes the following conclusion. Umidesidra lo ma'akva, ikrad hagrola nami lo ma'akva. The fact that the Brisa can say that b'di'evet, if you didn't do the gorel at the right time, it's not ma'akev, that indicates that the gorel bichlal is not ma'akev. That the gorel is something that b'di'evet, if it's not done, it's okay. So this Brisa, again, is a challenge to Rabbi Yanai, because Rabbi Yanai says that the gorel is ma'akev, and the Brisa here is implying that the gorel is not ma'akev. So the Gemara answers lo. No, that's not the correct interpretation. Really what the Brisa means is, da'aktim matanos depar b'mizbeach, mikmi matanos desoir behechol. What the Brisa means is like this. You took the bull blood after you put it on the kapores, and after you put it on the paroches, on the curtain, then you're supposed to mix the goat blood and the bull blood together and pour it on the golden altar. What this guy did is that he took the blood of the bull and poured it on the golden altar before he had sprinkled the goat blood on the paroches. And that's what he did that was wrong. And b'di'evid, therefore the Brisa says, b'di'evid it's kosher. That nothing that was supposed to be done with the goat stops the bull service from working. So even though you were really supposed to wait until after you sprinkle the goat blood on the paroches and then mix the two bloods together and pour it on the altar, nevertheless you jumped the gun and poured the bull blood on the altar before you let the sprinkling of the goat blood on the paroches. B'di'evid it's kosher.
Can you mix it with the goat blood or it's
It's not clear from the Brisa. It's not clear. But the point is that the Brisa is telling you that b'di'evid it's not ma'akev. V'Rebbi Yehuda hi da'amar dvarim hanasim bevigdei lavan b'chutz lo ma'akvi. And this goes according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that any service with the white vestments outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim b'di'evid is not ma'akev. So even though you were supposed to sprinkle the goat blood on the paroches outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim first, b'di'evid it's not ma'akev. And if you didn't do it in that protocol, you didn't do it in that order, then it's okay b'di'evid.
Chukah only applied to par?
It only applies to Kodesh HaKadoshim, bifnim. It only applies to what's inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. This is all outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim.
Well, so, but the goat blood
is also outside.
It's not inside.
It's on the paroches. It's outside on the curtain, on the outside surface of the curtain.
Outside the curtain. I'm sorry.
Okay. So now the Gemara says, but wait a minute. V'habe matana shebifnim katani. That can't be the explanation because the Brisa is specifically talking about blood placements inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And the way that you've interpreted the Brisa, you're talking about blood placements that are on the curtain outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So that explanation won't fly with the language of the Brisa. So Ella Hamani Rib Shimon he da'omar hagrola lo ma'akva. So the Gemara says, wait a minute, there's another Tana. Don't you remember we just identified Rabbi Shimon as saying that the gorel is not ma'akev? We were trying all the time to fit Rabbi Yanai and Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yanai says the gorel is ma'akev, and we were trying to show, so this brisa, which goes ostensibly like Rabbi Yehuda, is in conflict with Rabbi Yanai. No, Rabbi Yanai will tell you, I do hold like Rabbi Yehuda, that the gorel is ma'akev. But this brisa goes like another Tana, goes like Reb Shimon that we just demonstrated a moment ago. That Reb Shimon says that when one of the animal dies, you take another animal from the shuk and you don't have to make a gorel. So that very same Reb Shimon is the author of this brisa who says that the gorel is not ma'akev. And that's why. And so we're going back to our previous answer, that we're talking about what does the Brisa mean when it says that if you didn't do the goat service, it's okay b'di'evid, but if you jumped the gun with the bull, it's talking about where you didn't make the gorel and you went ahead and took the blood of the bull and put it inside before you did a gorel. So b'di'evid, that's okay because this goes according to Reb Shimon, but according to Reb Yehuda, taka is ma'akev. V'i'i ba'yasema, I'll give you another answer, says the Gemara. La'olam Reb Yehuda hi. Another answer, says the Gemara, is that the Brisa really is like Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yanai defends his position that the gorel is ma'akev. All the Brisa means to tell you is that the order of the gorel is not ma'akev, which means that if I did my confessional, my two confessionals on the bull, and then I shechted the bull, and then I sprinkled its blood inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and I forgot, I forgot to do the vidui on the gorel on the goats. B'di'evid, that's okay as long as you do a gorel afterwards. It's not telling you that the gorel bichlal is not ma'akev. It's just telling you that the order of the gorel is not ma'akev. You still have to do it, but you can do it later. Now, va'azdu l'tamayu, according to big machlokas Rashi and Tosi, we're going to learn like Rashi. Va'azdu l'tamayu is going back on the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda, who says that the confessional, remember we talked about this machlokas in the Brisa between Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon, or the Tanakama and Reb Shimon. The Tanakama had said that the gorel is not ma'akev, but the confessional is also not ma'akev. Rabbi Shimon says, I disagree. I agree that the gorel is not ma'akev, But I hold that the confessional is ma'akev. This machlokas as to whether the confessional is ma'akev or not is absolutely necessary or not is consistent with another machlokas, another brisa. Detanya yo'amad chai lifnei Hashem lechaper alav. The Torah says that the goat for Azazel has to be standing alive during the sacrificial order of the other goat that's going for Hashem, for the Chatas. It has to be standing there in the temple during that whole service. The question, of course, is why does the Torah say the word chai? It has to be standing alive. Let it just say yo'amad. It shall stand there. So the Gemara answers. So the conclusion is that yo'amad chai is coming to teach me a special halacha that in the event that one of the animals dies, you replace it. So ad masa yeh zakok la'amod chai. How long does the animal have to be alive? Which means if it dies, at what juncture does it die, and is still the whole service kosher? Ad sha'as matan damo shel chaver divrei Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbi Yehuda says, as long as it's alive, this goat for Azazel, as long as it's alive while the blood of the other goat is being sprinkled, then the whole service is kosher. So that even if the goat for Azazel dies after that, as long as it was standing there during that time of sprinkling of the blood, it's kosher. Reb Shimon, however, disagrees, and he says, ad sha'as vidoy devarim. And Reb Shimon says, no. As long as the goat is alive, when the Kohen, as long as both goats are alive, when the Kohen is doing the vidoy on the goat la'azazel, then the service is kosher. So you see a fundamental machlokus, b'may komiflagi. What's the machlokus between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon? Kedetanya lechaper b'chaparas damim akosav medaber, v'chein hu omer v'chila mechaperes hakodesh, mikaperes hakodesh. Because Rabbi Yehuda holds that what affects atonement on Yom Kippur for the Jewish people? He says that it's the sprinkling of the blood of the Chatas Lashem. As the Torah says in another context, that the blood of the sacrifice to inaugurate the Mishkan affects atonement. Ma'lahalan b'chaparas damim, afkan b'kaparas damim. I'm sorry, that pasuk is talking about the not about the inauguration of the Mishkan. It's talking about the Yom Kippur service. But it says over there that the blood acts as the atonement, just like there the blood atones. So too here the blood atones when you've got the two goats. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon Omer lechaper alav b'chaparas dvar makasav medaber, and Rabbi Shimon disagrees, and he says no, that the kapara that the Torah is talking about on Yom Kippur is the kapara that is affected through the vidoy of the Kohen Gadol. When the Kohen Gadol says his confessional on the goat la'azazel and he sends it out, that's what affects atonement on Yom Kippur. It's really quite a remarkable machlokus when you think about it. By the way, there's a similar machlokus that we'll see later on. Rabbi Yehuda, there's a machlokus bichlal on Yom Kippur. If a person does tshuva, Yom Kippur is machaper. We know that. What if a person doesn't do tshuva? Does Yom Kippur have any atoning effect or not? So, that's a shita according to only Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says that if you don't say any vidoy, then Yom Kippur will still be machaper. That's consistent with Rabbi Yehuda over here. Rabbi Yehuda says it's not the vidoy that's machaper, it's the sacrificial order that's machaper. Rabbi Shimon says no. The vidoy is necessary in order to be machaper. So basically the Gemara is saying that's consistent with the discussion that we had before about the gorol versus the vidoy. According to Rabbi Yehuda, neither the gorol nor the vidoy is necessary. According to Reb Shimon, the vidoy is necessary in order to effect an atonement.
Rabbi, sorry, just a sequence. When is the vidoy said for the goat of the Azazel?
It said
because
just before he sends it away.
Then you said the gorel. And then the shechs the bull. At what point does he do the vidoy?
I think he does the vidoy after. Well, that's right before he sends it away. Right before he sends it away.
That would be after he's sprinkled all the blood.
I believe so.
It talks about shechting the other goat.
Right.
First opinion was shechting the other goat, so it's got to be after that.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry, when shechted after Lazazel or Azazel stay there?
The goat Lazazel is present while you're doing the shechita of the goat that's for Hashem. That's the goat for Azazel is present. Once you finish the sacrificial service, then you say that, I believe that's when you say the confessional on the goat. I don't remember whether you say the confessional on the goat Lazazel before or after you shech the goat Lashem. You'll have to take a look at what the psukim say. But the bottom line is is that according to Reb Shimon, the thing that affects atonement is the confessional, not the sprinkling of the
So
dam.
if Azazel dies, right, and you did the carbon for the chatzos for Hashem, and this one died
After, yeah.
then you replace it.
No,
Did you
according
do
to
the
Reb,
redoing?
it's mashma, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you're done. Because Rabbi Yehuda says you don't have to do anything else. Reb Shimon, I believe, is of the opinion, no,
replace it.
that you would have to replace. That's part of the machlokas. Reb Shimon would say that you have to replace it. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you wouldn't have to replace it.
As long as you shechted
Yeah.
it.
Sorry, לעזאזל take דרך עזרת נשים outside?
The one that's Lazazel is sent out to the wilderness. It's sent out to the wilderness, outside.
From דרך...
We haven't learned from the protocol as far as how it's taken out. All we know for now is that it's taken out and pushed off a cliff. That's all we know. Okay. Toshma. Next brisa. Sha'alu Talmidav is Rebbe Akiva. The students of Rebbe Akiva asked him the following question. Allah bismol mahu sheyachzer liyamin. Now we know it's a siman bracha if you when you pull out the lots, if the one that's for Hashem ends up in your right hand. What happens if it ends up in your left hand? Can you do a switcheroo to give encouragement to the people? So the Gemara says, Amar lahen al tidnu makom litzedukim l'rados. Rabbi Akiva says, don't give room for the Sadducees to rebel. Now, what does that mean? Rashi says in a censored version, which you don't have in front of you, that it means that this was a polemic against the early Christian community and the followers of Yeshu HaNotzri. He says that their argument was that the letter of the law is not important. How exactly you do it is not such an important thing, as long as your heart is pure with God, right? So Rabbi Akiva says if you're going to play games by switching it from your left hand to your right hand, you're playing right into their hands. No pun intended, right? Because you're showing that it's not so important whether it's the right hand or the left hand. So the Gemara now says, "Taima da'al titnu makom litzedukim l'rados halav hachim ahadrinan lei." So the Gemara says, you see that Rabbi Akiva's only concern was not to give support to the Christians, but if that were not a consideration, then it would be okay halachically to switch from your left hand to your right hand. The question is on Rabbi Yanai. If you, Rabbi Yanai, say that the goral is ma'akev, then how can you switch from the left hand to the right hand? It means that you're not relying on the goral anymore. The one that was in your left hand, which was for Hashem, you're switching it to the other goat. So you're not using the goral. But it's mashma from Rabbi Akiva that it's not ma'akev, you see. So the Gemara answers, Amar Rava hachi ka'amri. Allah hagoral bismol mahu shiachziru lo vilisi'iro liyamin. You don't understand the question. The question was not, can you switch the lots and keep the goats the same? Can you switch the lots and the goats? Meaning that the lot that I pulled out with my left hand, which says Lashem, is for the lefty goat, right? The question that they were asking him is, can you switch the goats and switch the lots in your hand so that the one that was previously on the left now moves over to the right? In other words, we are relying on the goral. The question is, can you do something to give encouragement to the people that everything's for Hashem is on the right side?
Can you write it?
Can you write it? Can you make it right? So that's where Rabbi Akiva said, and Amar Lahem, al tidnu makom litzedukim l'rados. He said, look, technically it's kosher, but the problem is that if by pulling shtick in the temple, you're playing into the hands of the Christians. Tashma. Let's look at the next brisa. Ilu nemar es hasoir asher olav hayisi omer yanichenu olav. Had the Torah said the words, the goat that has the lot on it, that would have implied that it is necessary to put the card from the lottery on top of the goat. But Talmud Lomar, Allah olav, kevin sha'Allah shuveinu tzarich. So the Brisa says no. That's why the Torah adds the extra word asher Allah olav, that the lottery went up upon it. What does it mean it went up upon it? It means it was pulled out of the box. All is necessary that it be pulled out of the box. But as far as putting it on top of the goat, that's not necessary. So frak the Gemara Lamai. What's this brisa talking about? Ilema mitzvah, michlal dahanacha mitzvah nami lo? Question mark. If you're telling me that the brisa is only talking about lichatchila, the lottery is important, and lichatchila placing it on the goat is not important. So what do you mean to tell me that this brisa is saying that even lichatchila you don't have to put the card on top of the goat? There's no shita that says that lechatchila that's not important. Everyone holds that lechatchila you should put the card on top of the goat. It's just a question of whether it's ma'akiv or not. But to say that it's not even lechatchila, that no one says. So elalav la'akiv. So the brisa must be saying li'ikuva. It must be saying like this: taking the lottery is ma'akiv, but putting the card on the goat is not ma'akiv. So shma mina hagrola ma'akva hanacha lo ma'akva. So this is a raya to Rabbi Yanai, who says that the goral pulling the card out of the box is ma'akev. So now we're switching the tables. This is a kasha now on Rabbi Yochanan, who argues with Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai is the one who says that the goral is ma'akev. Rabbi Yochanan says the goral is not ma'akev. Now we have a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. So Amar Rava hachi kamar. So Rava says no. You misunderstood the brisa. Brisa means to say as follows: Ilu ne'amar asher alav. If the brisa would have just said that it is upon it, hayisi omer yanichenu alav ad shashchita. I might have thought that it is necessary to keep the card on the goat until, throughout the process, until you actually shech the goat for Hashem. So Tamul Omar asher Allah. Keven sha'Allah shuv eino tzarich. All the brisa therefore is telling you is that no, the extra word in the Torah says, if it comes out of the box and you place it on the goat, lechatchila, that's all you have to do. So that even lechatchila, once you've put the card on the goat's back, even for just a second, you can take it off. Even lechatchila, you don't need to do any more. And therefore, the brisa is talking about lechatchila. Lechatchila, do the goral. Pull the card out of the box. And lechatchila, put it on the back of the goat. But once you put it on the back for a second, then lechatchila you can even pull it off. So therefore, this brisa is not a challenge to Rabbi Yochanan because it's talking only about lechatchilas. It's not talking about any b'di'evets. And so therefore, there's no ma'akev issue over here. Tashma, look at the next brisa. The asahu chatas, make the goat for Hashem as a chatas offering. Hagoral osehu chatas vein Hashem osehu chatas, says the brisa. This teaches me that the goral is the thing that designates the animal as the chatas for Hashem, and it is not the verbal declaration which makes the animal a chatas for Hashem. Shiyachal, because you could have argued vahalodinu, that it's a logical argument that verbal declarations should be even more effective than the goral, because uma b'makom shelo kidesh hagoral kidesh Hashem, makom shekidesh hagoral enodin sheyakadesh Hashem. Because says the Bryce, I'll make following logical argument: there are many karbanos where there is no goral. Right? In all karbanos except Yom Kippur, there is no goral, and yet verbal declarations count to designate the animal. So for example, a woman brings 2 birds to the temple. One she has to bring for an ola, and one she has to bring for a chatas because she's just had a baby, right? What defines which bird is the chatas and which bird is the ola? It's the Kohen's declaration. The Kohen says that's for the chatas and that's for the ola. Once he makes the verbal commitment, you can no longer switch the birds. That's what Maseches Kinim is all about. For those of you who remember that headache, remember, right? So basically, the Brisa says, make a logical argument. Madach, in a situation where verbal declaration is the only thing that works to define what the animal is, and the goral is not effective, so surely in a case where a goral is effective, then surely verbal declaration should also help. So Tamul Omar v'asahu chatas hagoral osa chatas ve'en Hashem osa chatas. That's why the Torah has to explicitly tell me that the only thing that can commit the animal to being for Hashem or for Azazel is the goral and not a verbal declaration. Wait a minute, now what do you see from here? You see from here that the only thing on Yom Kippur that can make the animal for Hashem or for Azazel is the goral. That tells you that what? The goral is ma'akev, stam sifra money. And who is the author of this brisa? It's from the sifra. The sifra is the halachic medrash on Sefer Vayikra, as we know. Who is the author of the sifra? It's Rebbe Yehuda. The katani hagoral osechatas ven Hashem osechatas. Alma hagrola ma'akva. So we see that even according to Rebbe Yehuda, who was the Tana that Rebbe Yanai and Rebbe Yochanan were arguing in, holds that the goral is ma'akev. Tiyufta demanda amar hagrola lo ma'akva. tiyufta. It is therefore a refutation of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, who said that even according to Rabbi Yehuda, the goral is not ma'akev, you see that he's upgeschlagged. He's refuted. Have a wonderful day.